Today, we read diving into one of the most powerful and tragic events in human history, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These two attacks, carried out by the United States in August 1945, remain the only time nuclear weapons have ever been used in war. The consequences were devastating, and their impact still echoes across the world. To truly understand these events, we need to look at the state of World War II, the secret project that created these weapons, and the complex reasons behind their use. By 1945, World War II had been raging for nearly 6 years. In Europe, Germany had already surrendered, but in the Pacific, Japan was still fighting with fierce determination. Despite suffering immense losses, the Japanese military leadership refused to accept unconditional surrender. American military planners were deeply concerned. They predicted that a full-scale invasion of the Japanese mainland, codenamed Operation Downfall, would be incredibly bloody, potentially resulting in millions of casualties on both sides, including both soldiers and civilians. Faced with this grim forecast, American leaders began to consider a radical alternative, a powerful new weapon they hoped could force a swift end to the conflict. This weapon was the atomic bomb, born from a top-secret program known as the Manhattan Project. It was a colossal undertaking, involving some of the brightest scientific minds from the United States, Great Britain, and other allied nations. They worked in secret for years, racing against time to harness the power of the atom and create the most destructive weapon ever conceived. Finally, in the desolate desert of New Mexico in July 1945, the first successful atomic bomb test, codenamed Trinity, took place. The blinding flash and mushroom cloud confirmed that the weapon was ready. The world was about to change forever. On the morning of August 6, 1945, an American B-29 bomber, the Enola Gay, flew over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. It carried a single bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, at 8:15 a.m. The bomb was released. Within seconds, a massive, blinding explosion tore through the city. Temperatures at the epicenter soared to thousands of degrees, instantly vaporizing everything and everyone nearby. Buildings were flattened for miles in every direction. Tens of thousands of people died in that initial blast. By the end of the year, the death toll had climbed to an estimated 140,000, as more and more people succumbed to horrific burns, injuries, and the invisible killer, radiation sickness. The human suffering in Hiroshima was almost beyond description. Survivors, who would later be known as the Hibakusha, described scenes of unimaginable horror. They saw people with severe burns, their skin peeling off, wandering through the smoldering ruins. Collapsed buildings and raging fires turned the city into a hellscape. The city's infrastructure was completely wiped out. Hospitals were destroyed, and most doctors and nurses were either killed or severely injured, making medical help almost impossible to find. The immense suffering of civilians, men, women, and children makes this one of the darkest moments in modern history. Just 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, the United States dropped a second atomic bomb. The target was originally the city of Kaikoura, but bad weather forced the B-29 bomber, Boxcar, to divert to its secondary target, Nagasaki. This bomb, nicknamed Fat Man, was even more powerful than the one used on Hiroshima. Although the hilly terrain of Nagasaki contained the blast and reduced the area of total destruction compared to Hiroshima's flat plains, the devastation was still immense. An estimated 70,000 people were killed by the end of 1945. The second bomb sent a clear and terrifying message to Japan's leaders. Faced with the twin shocks of the atomic bombings and the Soviet Union's declaration of war on the same day as the Nagasaki bombing, the Japanese government's resolve finally broke. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender in a radio address to the nation. World War II was officially over, but the world had entered a new and dangerous era, the nuclear age. The effects of the bombings didn't end with the surrender. For the survivors, the nightmare continued for decades. They suffered from long-term health problems, including various forms of cancer, genetic damage that could be passed to their children, and deep psychological trauma. These hibakusha often face social discrimination, as fear and misinformation about radiation sickness spread. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki had to be rebuilt from absolute ruin, a monumental task that took years. The environmental impact also lingered, with radioactive fallout contaminating the soil and water. Even today, more than 75 years later, a heated ethical debate surrounds the decision to use the atomic bombs. Was it a necessary evil? Some historians and leaders argue that the bombings ultimately saved lives by forcing a quick surrender and avoiding a costly invasion of Japan. They point to the projected millions of casualties that an invasion would have caused. On the other side, many argue that the attacks were morally indefensible, constituting an act of mass murder against civilians. The question whether Japan was already on the verge of surrender and whether other options, like a demonstration of the bomb's power on an unpopulated area, were properly considered. This debate continues to shape discussions about warfare, ethics, and the responsibility that comes with possessing such powerful weapons. The global impact of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was profound. The bombings kicked off a nuclear arms race, primarily between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. For decades, the world lived under the shadow of mutually assured destruction, the terrifying idea that a nuclear war would annihilate both sides. This fear of global catastrophe spurred international efforts to control the spread of nuclear weapons and promote disarmament. Treaties and organizations were created to prevent nuclear war, and the memory of 1945 has served as a constant, sobering reminder of what's at stake. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not just military events. They were profound human tragedies that fundamentally altered the course of history. They serve as a stark reminder of the terrifying destructive power of technology when it outpaces our wisdom and humanity. Understanding these events is crucial, not just as a history lesson, but as a moral imperative. It compels us to reflect on the importance of peace, diplomacy, and our shared responsibility to ensure that such devastation is never, ever unleashed again. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.